I can't imagine doing this anywhere in the Bay. We're just now seeing the Bay rebounding through, decades worth of policy and investment and tough decisions on the part of our politicians and our communities and our farmers and everybody else. So, this is going to just add to air pollution. It's going to impact, if it comes across at this place where we think it might come to Kent County, that's a heavy-duty fishing ground, spawning ground. It's important to the entire Bay. So you've got an impervious surface is coming, tons of impervious surface, acres upon acres, more than 1,000 acres in Kent County alone would be affected by this. So, it's not good for the Bay. Let's just start there, where everybody understands the Bay's needs. And this bridge is not going to help that. The purpose and need is interesting because they are saying to the public right now that they are looking to address the impact of traffic seasonally and weekends to Ocean City. And also there's a commuter problem, actually east going to west during the week. And as bad as as we all regard Fridays on the Eastern Shore, the weekday commuting is also tough on everybody. There's expectation that trucking will increase. There are, people living in northern Queen Anne's County are aware that they're improving some of the bridges on 301 right now to deal with weight problems from lots more trucks. So we may see an increase of trucks, which is going to affect the current Bay Bridge. So there could be some effort to say, well, we really need to bleed off some of that trucking that's going down to the bridge and then back up to Baltimore needs to come across, give them a shortcut. So east going to west, and then west going to east, convenience, a little easier sometimes than the I-95 corridor for trucks, perhaps. That would be, if I saw that in the purpose and need, I'd be uncomfortable. Because, our part of the Bay, can serve that. The others cannot. You won't see maybe the chicken farmers and grain deliveries and whatever's happening on the lower shore might be relieved from some kind of, bridge in the lower end of the Bay. But that's going to be much more expensive. That's the problem. I mean, we are so close. It's an easy thing. But at the same time, if you really want to address the needs of Ocean City and get the best bang for the buck in terms of tourism and avoid providing people additional good ways to get to the Delaware shore, then you'd build south. And, so that's really, my thinking as a planner. It's, it's anybody's guess. And, MDTA's got the real inside scoop on where's the traffic coming and going and, costs and all the other trade-offs. It's a big, involved process. The bridge is, I don't think is a silver bullet for growth. Every community needs growth. I mean, people like me who care about preservation of historic resources or farmland preservation, you've got to have a lively economy so that private owners have enough money to, preserve these beautiful assets that we have in this county. So there's no reason not to talk about growth in this process. And I think it's important. I talk a lot because I know a lot about the cultural landscape and 400 years of development and sustainable economy in that. But you have to ask, what's going to be the next 100 years, okay? And the bridge is a teachable, discussable moment for us to ask that question, whether or not there's a bridge coming. And in fact, even without the bridge, given that Middletown is heading our way, which is kind of the same thing. If you're asking for the bridge, you're asking for Middletown. You already got Middletown. So what are you going to do about that, And, maybe Millington will benefit from some additional people willing to commute down into Maryland and go back into Delaware instead of the reverse, which is quite common. Where is there another community as well protected as we are, with as many wonderful continuing economic resources, history, farms, small towns, and, that has 12 million people within easy reach? Our economic development folks here in the county like to talk about 60 million within 100 miles. So, I mean, we're farming and working in the shadow of lots of people already, and they seem to get closer and closer, it seems to me, even though we have no bridge. So, and lots of us, like me, live here and work, in various capacities elsewhere. Not as a commuter, I'm a consultant moving around. But let me challenge you on Kent County is dying, or the sort of doom and gloom kinds of statements that I've heard as we go around and talk to groups, and we're willing to talk to any group that wants to bring us in, and we can talk about these things. One day we just, the 8 of us who are on the board of the Kent Conservation and Preservation Alliance decided, well, wait, let's test this. In the last 5 years, how many businesses have expanded or started up? And without trying too hard, we came up with about 75. It's a surprising number when you stop to think, oh, yes, we've lost a restaurant downtown, but at the same time, we had a Southern State start up near Millington in Massey. And, there's 15 jobs there. Lamont's expanding. We all know about KRM, the warehouse coming along, and the big, very thoughtful development that is happening there with the help of the county and the town. KRM and Dixon Valve have done some wonderful planning up there. So, it's not like we're not thriving in some ways. I think you can, admit that there are, some issues to do with poverty and unemployment. Our unemployment's pretty low, and it more or less matches the state's, and it's quite a lot better than Baltimore's. And I'm told that some employers are having trouble filling positions. We actually, in fact, have more jobs per 1,000 people in Kent County than Queen Anne's County does. As a community, we have more manufacturing in this community than Maryland as a comparison. So we actually have an interesting mix and an important base from which to grow. I think one of the big limits is the perception of our school system, and that is changing. I have high hopes on that. But it takes a while for some of these things to swing around. I feel like there's got to be another way, and we don't have to accept the inevitable, and one of the sort of feelings I get from people as we talk is we only have 2 choices: doom or grow until we lose it. There's got to be something in between. There just has to be, and I think there's a lot of smart people here, and I think there's a lot of people who care a great deal about the community and the assets that we have now and want to find a way to build on that. But I think we have the best chance of influencing a decision not to come to Kent County by coming out strong and coming out soon on we don't want the bridge. And we don't want the bridge for many reasons. Not the least is the cultural landscape that I care a great deal about, and a lot of other people, and KCPA is studying that landscape to try to get more information to this process. But there are so many other reasons, and the farming is another. The impact to the change to this community would be huge if we, had that kind of change. And it's a scary thought, and I think we need to all be better at understanding what the trade-offs are, what the impacts are. That is part of the NEPA process, but it's also partly our responsibility to make those arguments and to get those understandings.